Should you buy a house at every duty station and just rent it out when you leave? That's what I'm going to talk about in this video and some of your benefits that you can expect. What is up, guys? You're tuning in to Nikki MGTV for another video. As always, you can hit me up on Instagram, Snapchat, or down in the comments below if you have questions. But as always, eat your Taco Bell, hit that notification bell, hit like, subscribe, comment. A lot of people watch this video and don't subscribe. I'm giving you guys nuggets of knowledge. You see these notes here? I'm taking notes to help you guys out and also for myself a little bit. But I think you guys should probably take some notes. If you want, I'm going to link down below some of the resources I've used for this video. If you want to go back through, take your own notes from it. Definitely something to go through. But obviously, this is like a video condensed version and kind of answering a little bit more in depth than what you're just reading here. So to give you guys a heads up on my previous financial videos that have done pretty well, pretty much people have been asking stuff about buying houses at every duty station and just renting them out as you leave. Now, this is something that a lot of military people do end up doing when they go to one place or another, but I'm going to kind of walk you through why you should or should not do this. And actually, I probably won't recommend if you should or shouldn't, but I'm going to give you just kind of the mindset to understand as you do this. So to give you the background story to understand how long you'll be somewhere, this varies with every job and based on what is available. There are some people I've known that have been in San Diego for much of their career. There's people that have stayed in Virginia for almost their entire career. You know, it varies. And then there's someone like me where I've bounced from if you want to count Virginia first for my first few months, then San Diego for 4 years. Then I went to Roto for 3 years in Spain. Then I went back to San Diego for 1 year. Then I went to Japan for 3 years. And now I'm wondering where I'm going to go next. So if that conveys to you, it's really up in the air and you can't determine that you're going to stay at one place the whole time. You will get housing allowance guaranteed if you are married, and then typically if you're E4 over 4 years, you will be guaranteed housing allowance in the Navy, but other branches, it can be higher, like the Marines, typically E5, E6 even for some bases. So realize that could be another factor you need to make yourself aware of, is rank can have its privileges, and if you will have housing allowance at one place versus another. Now, I have talked about this in my other financial videos, but if you guys have not done this, you can easily go into Google and type in BAH calculator, and you'll find something. You pump in your zip code of where your duty station's at, your rank, and with or without dependents, and you can find out how much money you would make every month. Now, obviously, you want to make sure that your amount is below whatever you're getting for your housing allowance. That is key and essential for this process, because if you're paying over that, obviously you're not giving yourself much wiggle room. When you are in the military, your income is going to change on a regular basis. So this depends where you live at, and that's just very difficult to plan out if you're moving all the time to all these various different places. Also, people have been asking about the Veteran Affairs or VA loan, which a lot of people know it as. And I've researched this, but I was like, let me go back to the drawing board and research this again to make sure I have all the up-to-date information for you if anything has changed. But I'm going to break this down, some of the pros and cons of this loan. So if you guys don't know, this is pretty much a VA-backed loan, or a portion of it will be backed by Veteran Affairs through these private lenders, okay? And not every lender is going to have a Veteran Affairs option. It does narrow down, your options, but again, if you're going to be looking, you should be looking at the various different types of lenders that you can find out there and see how they compete. The one major benefit to the VA loan is the fact that you are able to get a loan with 0% down, meaning you don't have to put in your 20, 10, 5%, whatever it is. But I'm going to talk about why you actually would like to put that in a little bit later in this video, and why you want to put in more rather than just putting it at $0 and just hopping right into a loan. All right, guys, so I wanted to go over the one thing I mentioned here that I forgot to mention in the video, and that is the funding fee. So when I said put down your money, the 5 to 10% right here, as you can see right here, you can see that the percent of that fee that the VA is going to charge you significantly decreases as you put more money down on your loan or on your property. So obviously, talking about a house that's hundreds of thousands of dollars, this percentage can be pretty significant, even though 2.15 versus 1.25 doesn't seem like a lot. And also, looking at a property in California, for example, a lot of them are 400,000 plus. Putting down 10% you're looking at a hefty penny to save up for that. So it might be worth it to save. Next is there are no private mortgage insurance costs with the VA loan. So obviously you're going to be saving money there. But again, I said I'm going to talk about why you need to put money down, because that's going to actually end up costing you money later on if you don't. There are limits on the closing costs for your loan. From my research, I saw it was 4%. But the caveat with this is there are specific things that go into a closing cost of your house, which may not fall under that, which you may end up having to pay. So people can find ways to have that not fall under quote unquote closing costs. So you could end up paying for stuff. That's something that you'll have to consider case by case basis and looking with your realtor and your lender and all that kind of stuff to figure out what is going to be covered and what won't. One of the factors that I really enjoy about the VA loan that I think is beneficial is you're not charged for early payments. This is really important because a lot of you guys think like, oh, I want to pay off my debt as fast as possible, pay off your house as fast as possible. That's great. But the issue is a lot of these lenders are anticipating the amount that you're paying on interest to become their profit. So they may charge you a certain amount if you are paying it off early, but with the VA loan, you're not worried about that because you can pay it off all in one lump sum if you somehow win the lottery if you wanted to. But what I'm saying is it's a benefit because if you do get an increase in income, you could start deciding to pay off more of the house than less. Another benefit is that you can actually get help if you're unable to make payments. They don't really specify how they're going to help. I don't know if they have any leverage with your lender to be like, hey, this guy can't pay, just got laid off for a couple months, whatever it is, but it is a factor. And another myth with the VA loan is that this can actually be used more than once. So you can use it more than one time. It's not a one-time use and done. Also, if you want to check eligibility, there's a whole list of eligibility on the site that I've linked down below. Pretty much, I'm going to give you guys a spectrum here. Because my audience typically is active duty, people looking to be active duty, or someone that's maybe going into the reserves. If it's anything else special where like you got kicked out or something like that, go to the eligibility if you're curious. But as far as people going active duty, you will be eligible. But for the people that are reservists, you'll have to serve over 6 years. Obviously, we're trying to have you serve your entire 4 to 6 year enlistment. Call it a day if you're active duty, and you'll be good to go. This is where I want to do a little assessment of things that you should consider before you start buying property or doing any of this stuff. And the one thing that a lot of people are looking at when they're saying, oh, can I get a house at every duty station if you're able to use this loan multiple times? The key with this is that you are technically supposed to be an occupant of the place that you are at. So if you are buying a house, you have to be in the house. It can't be like an investment property that you're not living in. Now, if you're buying like a set of condos and you're going to finance the entire thing, there's 4 condos in this house, or maybe it's a duplex. I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff out there where you have multiple homes in one kind of big home. You can do that and live in one of them and then rent out the rest. But again, that's just a technicality of this. I have heard of people doing rentals on their VA loan homes. I don't know who polices this rule or how that works, or if there's anybody that researches this stuff. I can't speak on that specifically, but I do know people have done this, so I'm not saying it's right, but I'm saying per this is the rule for it. So please, I'm just passing on information. So if you know somebody that has, I'm saying I have known people that have done it as well, but per this information, that's what the VA is spreading. So as I spoke about previously, you're only serving at each location maybe a minimum of 2 years. Some places are even 1 year, but those are typically overseas. And then you're going to serve, I've heard, upwards of 5, maybe 6 years, which are some lengthy tours at certain other places. And it's just a big spectrum. Again, varies on job, varies on a lot of other things. So I don't want to give you an exact science. It's just that's the spectrum we're working with. Obviously, when you're looking at real estate, a lot of people are looking to invest and make money on this stuff. Now, if you're living in the house and you are investing in it, hoping to sell it and make a profit, that is something that you would have to gamble on. Typically, looking at all the research I've done on this subject of the growth of houses, typically a little over 1% growth each year. So if you're at a place for 2 years, 3 years, how much is that house really going to grow? And is it going to be enough to justify you buying the house? So you're putting money from your housing allowance that you're getting from the military into this house, and you're hoping to get some of that money back in the end because you've invested or taken a risk, if you want to look at it that way. Another factor you need to look at if you're going to rent out these properties is who is going to manage it. So if you bought a house in San Diego, California, you got orders to Virginia now in Norfolk, what are you going to do to manage that property in San Diego? You have to trust that person. How much are you going to have to pay them? The management company. And again, what if you don't have renters? So if you don't have renters in the house, you're not getting that mortgage paid by somebody else. So the reason why I use the San Diego and Virginia topic is because if you are moving from San Diego, which my housing allowance was $3,100 when I was leaving there, right? Then you go to Virginia where it's significantly less and no one's living there. How am I going to pay the mortgage on that house? So that is a big factor in risk of if you're willing to take this on and find good tenants that are going to stay there for several years. I also forgot to mention about property tax because obviously California is very expensive. It depends where you're living at. I'm just using this as an example, but it can become very expensive. Homeowners association fees and all these other things that come along with that. Another factor is when you're looking at military establishments or installations. If you look at them and the markets around them, it really varies. If you look at something like Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, where I've had a lot of friends buy houses there and not do so hot because there are so many new homes being built that people are buying those versus the old ones. Also, the location of where it's at near the base. Is there a noise issue? Is it an air base? You can actually lose value on your home during this time. And so be very careful because high turnover rates at military bases do not really help increase the value of the homes in the area. And my recommendations or what this comes down to is just doing your research. And that comes down to understanding the area that you're going to be at. And this is where the military becomes a very much disadvantage of this situation because if you've never lived there, you're really going off statistics and what you see online and what the crime rates are, what the schools are, what the value of the properties are in that area, what it's like in the area as far as the waterways, all these other things that you have to consider around there, the traffic, the noise. When you haven't lived somewhere, it's going to take a lot of research on your part and a greater learning curve to know what you're buying into because this is an investment. And if you do run into the case where you can't get tenants in the property, you're not able to pay it, whatever the case might be, the economy really goes down. There were a lot of people that I dealt with previously during the 2009 crash that were short selling their homes and ended up actually having really bad credit and getting into a ton of debt. This is all because they tried to buy a home to rent it out, build their wealth, stuff like that, take a little bit of risk, and ended up doing the exact opposite. They ended up taking on the rest of the loan that was not paid for by the short sale. So it's a very tough and difficult situation. Save up enough money to cover what you are willing to risk or cost to the point where you feel comfortable to buy something and be able to maybe cover the mortgage for a month, 2 months, 6 months. You never know how long this is going to take. Obviously, there is a lot of risk that comes with home buying and factors that you need to consider. This is just one video out of the entire spectrum. We covered a little bit about what to expect as far as duty stations, how often you do it, what the VA loan is, all this other stuff. You can link down below and check that out if you really want to see a full in-depth and do your research like I did. But this is just my mindset. I will be looking at investing in property in the future, and I've been looking since I've been here in Japan, and me and Justine are saving up for that in the future. Obviously, there's a lot of factors of where I get stationed next. If I get commissioned for officer program, if I'm, I don't know. It's such an up in the air thing, and that is only a year and a half away. And so a lot of things are going to come down to where I get stationed next. And that's one of the things of like, is it a place where I would even want to invest my money? And that is, again, I put a lot of stuff on the table stateside. I've looked at Virginia, Florida, California, Washington. Where am I looking to possibly even go back to in the future? Because if I retire from the military, would I see myself in Florida? Would I see myself in Virginia? Would I see myself in any of these places to where I might want to still live in that home or still keep it as a rental property? I will say that the benefit of the VA loan is probably more so seen in somebody that is probably going to be out of the military. It's a VA loan. Obviously, you're probably going to have a more stable income. You're probably going to know the area better. Maybe you got out while you were stationed in San Diego or Virginia, and you've maybe known the area a little bit better because you've had a few years to look at it and research and actually see which areas are good or bad and where you see value possibly coming up. So definitely do your research is what I'm going to tell you guys. But if you guys do have questions about this or anything else, you guys can always hit me up on Instagram, Snapchat, or down in the comments below. I love you guys. See you next time.